Welcome to Sharing Hope. I'm your host, Jamie George. Our guest today is Mr. Matt Hammitt, best known for his role with the double award-winning Christian pop group Sanctus Real. He's a guitarist, singer, songwriter, and it was with Sanctus Real forever, but then left Sanctus Real in 2015 because he started doing a solo project and really spent some time focusing on his family. And Matt's been involved in a lot of things, and we're going to hear about a couple of them here in just a minute because he's also a speaker. He leads men's events. He's married. He's got 4 kids. One of his kids, Bowen, maybe some of you have followed that story, has a severe heart defect, and hopefully we'll get caught up a little bit on where Bowen is in his journey. But Matt and his wife started a nonprofit called Whole Hearts Foundation, and that's supporting families of children suffering from pediatric heart disease. Matt, what a joy to have you with us, brother. And it's good to catch up in the midst of all the insanity.
Yeah, I feel like doing my best to stay connected with everybody by Zoom. My wife and I have actually been doing some double dates with other couples.
Oh, that's cool.
A couple times a week on Zoom. It's actually been kind of nice, connecting with people and doing our best during this crazy time. But I hope everybody else is hanging in there and staying sane.
I was going to say, so what else are you doing? That's brilliant. Double dates over Zoom. How are you coping? How are the kids coping? I mean, I know my daughter misses your daughter. I mean, she's dying to be hanging with her friends.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I love that they all love each other so much. And those groups where they just hang and such good kids to be a part of their lives. And so we can't wait for that to happen again, hopefully soon. But the kids have been okay. Our neighborhood folks have been getting out a little bit, trying to do the social distance neighborhood thing, still gathering a little, and keeping our sanity. But definitely felt those moments of tension like everybody else of being cooped up as a family of 6. And, those pull your hair moments of just being stuck in the same spot for 40 days. We've all had those trials like everyone else has. And so, but we homeschool anyway. So our lives haven't changed a whole lot with the kids' schooling. We're always pulling our hair out. So
you're like, I've been doing this for years.
My wife. But no, so we're hanging in there.
Good. Now, something happened pretty exciting just here the last 10 days, 15 days. Tell us a little bit about, you get a phone call. The next thing you know, things are rolling. You had a pretty cool thing happen just last night, right? I mean,
yeah.
Tell us about that.
So about 10 days ago, my buddy Ryan Higgins, who really neat guy, he actually worked on the Ben Carson presidential campaign and for Mitt Romney and he's also is a kind of a faith networking guy with some folks in DC, and he also produces some events with Kirk Cameron and some other people. So he's kind of got all these ideas, he's an ideas guy. And so he said, hey, I need your help. Would you wrangle some artists together? So, I called Bart, Mercy Me, and Crowns and For King Country guys. You're all friends with those guys as well. Natalie Grant. I just kept going down the line, and the more people we kept getting, then we started getting calls from people who were, wanted to be a part of it, like even like TD Jakes and, just Franklin Graham and all these faith leaders. We wanted to be a part of this event, which ultimately was a concert, which was an online fundraiser for Samaritan's Purse. And so it's kind of crazy. It all came together in 10 days. We ran this thing last night. We had over 150,000 people watching live.
Wow.
Throughout any one time. But we found out there were over 2 million that watched over the course of the evening, and we raised $2 million for Samaritan's Purse in 1 hour.
Matt, that's amazing.
So, wow. Yeah, it was called Hope Rising, and it was a lot of work. And the whole time, we literally were working, pulling, it was crazy, working morning, noon, and night for those 10 days to pull this thing together, thinking like, we don't know, maybe 2,000 people might show up. We had no idea. So to see it come together and for all that to happen, it really felt good.
It's cool when you see what we're all dealing with the difficulties of such a horrible situation, but to see how limitations suddenly creates opportunity, and to watch the creative minds just go, hey, what if we tried this, and how about that, and then
Right.
to see the generosity of people. I mean, Matt, that says so much about people who are in their own fear and anxiety about their own lives, that they're willing to give generously like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what blew me away. I thought we would struggle on the fundraising side. To be honest, I thought, hey, it would be great if we could get a lot of eyes on this thing, just because I feel like the world needs hope so
Yeah,
badly.
yeah.
And man, I love top 40 and popular music as much as anybody. So I've enjoyed some of these concerts they've done with the, One World Together at Home, or the iHeartRadio with Elton John. Like, I've enjoyed some of this content, but I got to be honest, there is a spiritual component that people are seeking that's lacking in some of that content. And it's not focused on that. And I totally get it. But to have a night where it is focused on just breathing spiritual hope and emotional life into people, to have it uplifting in that kind of way, for that to be the focus, even beyond the music. We had high hopes that it would just really encourage people and just breathe fresh air into their homes, and that was what I think we thought would be the main thing, and we didn't know if it would really raise any money. So when we found out we raised $2 million, I've had the same thought as you. I thought, man, what amazing testimony to, honestly, the people in this country who, like you said, are hurting themselves, but are still willing to give. I mean, that really blew me away.
Yeah, what a testimony to the solidarity and people standing together. In a time of crisis where people could start to get really selfish, and
Yeah.
man, that's beautiful. I mean, that's talk about hope. That inspires me.
Yep.
That's amazing. Well, Matt, you and I have talked a lot about the struggles when life hits and it's overwhelming, and lots of folks are there, right? Lots of folks. One of the things I do is I'm a coach, and I'm trying to help people, especially who are stuck and in crisis, especially relational crisis. And there's so much fear, so much anxiety. You've dealt with this through the years. And could you speak to when you felt this, the uncertainty kind of clouding your mind, and the overwhelming piece that happens with it, where you just kind of want to get into, climb into like a little ball and hide out from the world in the fetal position. Like, when you've had those moments, how have you survived? How do you come through it? What words of encouragement could you give to others from someone who's been through it?
Yeah. And I definitely, to give some people a little bit of context, I remember in 2008, I had written a song for the band that I was with called Lead Me. And it was a song about my desire, really. Well, first it starts with the cry of a wife's heart or a child's heart for, for a closeness with a father or husband, or for emotional, and spiritual oneness as a family. And then it turns into the cry of a father and husband's heart, just to God out of desperation, saying, how do I do this? And that song came out of a really sincere moment for me of feeling lost as a man and a leader, and not knowing even really totally, I didn't have a defined idea of what I was even getting wrong yet. Just knew that I didn't have it right. And it almost made me feel even more lost and more crushed, because I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to fix this thing, God, you're going to have to show me where these steps are that I really need to take. Because quite honestly, at the time, I had thought I was doing a decent job, but what I had realized is that I was defining myself by my inward dialogue and my own imagination of who I wanted to be. And I had allowed that to be enough for me. And so it was like coming to grips with the reality of who I really was versus who I desired to be, and allowing myself to grieve a little bit of, like, right? You have to almost like grieve your own perception of who you've desired to be in the areas you feel.
Totally.
I kind of started that journey. And that obviously we're all on forever and it's never ends, but that was a major milestone for me. And so I went through this season where I struggled very deeply, just to figure out, okay, this family piece of being a career musician and an artist, and the tension between career dreams and family dreams. I was navigating this thing, and I got to a point where that song "Lead Me" that I was talking about, that I wrote about those tensions, came out in 2010, and it went number one for 3 months on all Christian radio formats around the world. And and there was a big irony in all of this. The very song that was the desire of my heart for me to be closer uh, to my family and a stronger, better leader, actually pulled me away from my family even more, because the success of the song
Oh my.
tore my insides even more in this battle. And right as this was happening, as all of this on a career and family level was transpiring, we found out that our third baby was going to be born with a life-threatening congenital, very rare congenital heart disease. So now we find out, not only am I still trying to pull it together with the 2 kids I have,
Oh,
a career that's kind of, starting to take off, and I'm already feeling unwound. Now I've got to kind of try to see, how do I navigate this new season where, from April when we found out to September, we're in this waiting pattern of what is life going to be like.
mm,
The child who needs multiple open heart surgeries and all these decisions we're making. And then Bone was born on September 9th in 2010. And we spent 4 months in the hospital as a family, going through 2 open heart surgeries and all kinds of issues, just not knowing if he would even live. And through all this, still navigating, just the tensions I was already trying to figure out. And so we got thrown into a massive whirlwind of emotion and chaos that in the end pulled me down to the very, very bottom,
mm,
trying to see my way out.
mm.
And so, I mean, we've all been there at some point, that place of despair where we're just, I mean, that's, when, I mean, you talk about faith and hope being faith and hope in what you can't see. I mean, when you literally cannot
Mm.
see the way out,
Mm.
I mean, those are the times when that's all you have is do I have faith? Do I still have faith in God? It's a real question, right? Do I still have faith in God? Do I still believe in God? Do I still believe who He is? And what is my life for? What is it about? And those are the serious questions you ask yourself. And so it was a matter of years for me of sorting through all this and finally reaching a place where, for me personally, I realized that my life would be healthier if I were using my gifts and talents in a different context
Mm.
than being on the road 250 days out of the year.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's around 2015 is when I finally made a very hard decision to step away from the band that I had been in since I was 16 years old, 8 records with Sparrow Records, 20 years with my best friends,
Mm.
walk away from that and kind of just open up my hands and say, okay, I have no idea what it is now, but God, you're going to have to sustain me.
And talk about uncertainty. I mean,
Yeah.
being with the band for 20 years, you're walking away from your career, you're walking away from your friends, you're walking away from what's comfortable. You've got this complete unknown with your son. You got your own anxiety you're dealing with. I mean, talk about uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I ended up stepping away, and as hard as it was, through that difficult decision that I really did know I was meant to make. I mean, I always tell people, there's a season of restlessness when you're restless and you're stirring and you don't know what's being spoken to your soul.
Mm.
And you're trying to navigate it, but you know that's there, and and you can feel the change coming. And then there's almost that same feeling, but it's a release. Okay, I've known this restlessness was for a reason, but here's the release.
Wow.
And so finally, when I stepped into that release and I let go, I really did feel an entirely new season of just margin in my life and
Mm.
space to breathe and
Mm.
space to be, even just be myself, who God designed me to be.
Is it
Uh,
back to that word irony? Like
yeah,
here you are letting go of everything where it should feel like, I mean, one would think, gosh, well, what are you going to do? What's going to happen with your life? And yet in that complete surrender, you started to feel some peace and alignment.
yeah, right, exactly. It's like we think by grabbing onto the things that we want, we'll find what we need.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is crazy. It is ironic that usually it's in the letting go. You're absolutely right, Jamie. I think that those are the moments when, in letting go, that we find what we've been looking for. I
Mm.
mean, you're no stranger to this. I mean,
No, as a matter of fact, as you're telling the story, I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
the whole time I'm telling this story, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm thinking of these past few months for
This
you.
is a good reminder.
Yeah,
And
stepping.
my experience has been the same. It really has been. In times when it kind of doesn't seem like it makes sense. Wait, hold on. How come I'm experiencing this much peace?
Yes.
And kind of finding myself again. That really resonated when you said that. Like, I'm like, oh, I think I forgot me a little bit.
Yeah.
And for me, I was just immersed in serving in a church for so long that there was just some of me lost in all that.
Yeah. Well, I remember Stephen Curtis Chapman at one point told me, when we were touring with him, and I mean, years and years ago, but he was talking about the machine we create, or that evolves, or some people would say the monster, and it was out of love, and it was meant to be a wonderful thing, but then now it's eating, and it needs to keep eating, and it needs to keep moving, and
Yes.
so many moving parts, and at some point you can't control the monster anymore. It grows to a point, and not that I'm saying the monster describes a bad nature of whatever it is that you're doing, but it can start to feel that way when it begins to run your life,
Yeah.
and you're making every decision about what you do in your life, and what you do with your time, and how you govern your relationships, all based on this thing
Well said.
that
Well said.
you're trying to just needs to keep moving and eating. At some point, sometimes you gotta slay it,
And remembering that sometimes maybe we were meant to we had a role to play.
yes, exactly.
Like we were supposed to start it, or we were supposed to get the thing rolling, or we were supposed to be a part of it for a season. But that if we're really healthily detached from something, we can pass the baton and trust it
Absolutely.
forward.
And somebody else, it's not a monster, right?
Right,
Somebody
right,
else sees it's this beautiful thing,
right.
and see how they can keep contributing to it.
Yes.
I think that's part of, like, internally, when you begin to see this thing, this dream, this thing you've built, this thing you've given your life to, it becomes slavery
Mm.
at some point. It's like, yeah, I think that is the point when you got to start going, okay, yeah, maybe it is time. And like you said, somebody else will step in. One of the things that I thought a lot about as I was writing my book recently about all this was, I was just thinking about all the times that I was I felt that I needed to fill a void
Mm.
in some area.
Mm.
I wanted to be in the forefront of some place, that some platform or some position. But I've realized more and more that when it comes to almost everything that we do career-wise, or when it comes to building our wealth or our fame or our career, whatever it is, that really there's 1,000 people in line behind you waiting to take your place. Actually, a lot of those people really are excited to see you go. Like, they're like, hey, it's an opportunity for me to step in.
Yeah.
Right. And hopefully people will, like, appreciate your gifts and what you
Yeah.
brought to the table while you were there. And hopefully you'll be remembered fondly when it comes up, maybe what, by God's grace we did with our lives in those areas. But the only place that life won't just go on without us is our lives at home with our children and our wives and people that really we love and that matter
Yes.
to us.
So
And
good.
it's like nobody else can take your place in that space.
Wow.
That is the one place that where if you are absent, you are gone, you walk away, you burn out. That you want to talk about real damage. Anywhere else in life, somebody else can step in and save the day. Maybe not even miss you. Like I've had to come to grips with the fact that there's plenty of people out there waiting to have a big song on Christian radio, and I may never have one again, and everybody's fine with me not having one again.
Right.
It's like
right. And there are
me.
plenty of people who can lead a church. It's funny. Yeah, you're right. It is so interesting how we get stuck there and inflate the importance of us being stuck in a role, even though one of the things you said to me really hit me. You can feel inside. You didn't use the word anticipation, but it was kind of like what you were implying. Like there's a longing in my soul as how you said it, to be and do something else, and you can feel it pulling you. But when the tapes are playing, like, no, I got to stay in this thing, or I'm responsible. That's a big tape for me. No, I'm attached because I'm responsible, and what are people going to think, and blah blah blah. And like you said, then I had somebody ask me toward the end of me being a part of the church I was a part of, hey, was it a I have to or I get to?
Mm-hmm.
And the first decade was an I get to, but it switched to an I have to.
Yep.
And it's not, like you said, it's like the memories are still really fond. I miss the people. There's so much beauty, but there are other people in line who could do such a wonderful job. And I was resisting the call to do something else.
Well, I will say, it's really beautiful. And I know this isn't about the church, but it's really beautiful to see even now because we have a lot of the same friends.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see that somebody can build something that can go on without them being involved.
Yeah.
That can still be beautiful, right? Because what that means is that you didn't create a me monster. You created something that was growing and thriving, that was made of all kinds of people who loved God, loved each other, and that it was built on the basis of something pure and beautiful. And I think that has been one of the most amazing things to see in your transition. For me, it was like, wow, like this was built on something beautiful. And so that's a legacy. It's interesting. A minute ago, you're talking about the revisiting the restlessness.
Yeah.
And the restlessness versus the release. And when you hit that release phase, when you know it's time to go, that's when I struggled the most with those questions of like, well, if I go, what is everybody going to do without me? And just like you mentioned, I had a really defining moment where I just felt like, God, I believed it was God's voice in my heart telling me, do you think you're the only child of mine that I love? Talk about kind of like a feeling of like, man, and I'm asking, what are people going to do without me? It's like as if I think this is just all about me,
right?
Or for me,
right?
For everybody else, it's good too, right? I kind of felt really. I was like, oh yeah, about that.
There's a few more people in the world, and I'm looking after them too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. Well, catch us up on how Bowen's doing. There were some big moments I know this past year, and so catch us up on him. And then there's a pretty special project that you guys have been working on about his story.
Yeah. So, last July we went through Bowen's third major open heart surgery, and he's 9 now, and so that was a lot harder this time around because when you're having surgeries with a baby, it's still your son, but let's get real. Like you don't know a baby, like a 9-year-old, right? You don't received this child into your heart and life in the same way, and so it was very difficult to go through that. And one of the questions we've gotten from people along the way, probably more than any other, is from families who are going through chronic illness and surgeries. And they're always asking, how did you prepare for this surgery? How did you go through it? How did it affect your marriage? How did it affect your other kids? There's also a lot of people who are making decisions about whether or not they want to bring a child into the world who, has a disease like this. And so we wanted to make something that showed how we could use our pain to pull our family together instead of pull us apart, and show how it really can bring beauty in the midst of some of the hardest seasons of life. And so we allowed some friends of ours who sadly lost a child to heart disease to come alongside of us. They had worked for 2 years doing short documentaries for NBC and decided they wanted to move into feature length work. And we called them to ask about documentary work, and they actually said, hey, just so happens we're leaving NBC and we want to start our first feature length and we would like to partner. And so it just couldn't have worked out any better. So they came along with us through the entire year of leading up to Bowen's third surgery and going through it, and then even beyond it, and just really getting a very intimate look at how this affects a family. And in the difficult ways and in the amazing ways that, pain can teach us so much and help us grow if we're willing to lean into it instead of running from it. And so that was kind of the project at its roots, which now we've named Bowen's Heart, because it's about Bowen's heart disease. And the documentary is now finished. It's a 90-minute feature-length documentary. And we're in the process now of just starting to pitch to some distribution companies and other studios about potential partnerships. So
beautiful. So hopefully in the next months, maybe we'll all get to see it.
We're hoping. Yeah, we don't know. I actually know what's interesting is right now, and you would know this because you do film work too. But as you know, they're slashing budgets for production on everything. So we actually may be seeing a window for a finished product to be embraced a little more because they're not able to produce new.
Right. Because you're like, hey, this is actually done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So maybe that'll serve our favor. We don't know, but we'll see what happens here soon, hopefully.
Man. Well, this has been phenomenal. A couple of things as we close. This is just kind of for fun, out of curiosity. Is there anything that mattered a whole lot before that matters less now?
Oh man, so much. Well, I saw somebody post like, what's the one thing you don't miss?
Yeah.
From before quarantine. And the first thing that came in my head was FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I don't have the fear of missing out. Like my friends getting together.
That's true. It's totally true. Yeah. You're like, yeah, good. I'm glad you enjoyed your cruise. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Or wait, you guys did what on Friday? Yeah, right. You're like, nope, none of that happened.
Yeah, but it did make me realize that like we were often so busy doing those things that I realized, man, I think moving forward, we may have to adapt our lifestyle to have a little more time at home.
Wow, I love that. That's amazing. So when you get out, is there a favorite restaurant or cuisine? Are the kids saying like, the first thing I want to go do is this? Is there a thing yet that you guys are like, that's our thing?
The first food we actually got out that it wouldn't have been my first choice, but we actually did order our first takeout like just last week. It was Five Guys. Kids really wanted that, so that was good. But Sarah and I have actually said there's a restaurant, Honeysuckle, that we really like. So
love Honeysuckle,
one of our favorite places. So we're thinking that maybe once this is all over, we'll go celebrate there.
Go out and have a nice date. Yes, that's good. Well, Matt, if people want to catch up, kind of keep track of Bowen's story, if they want to hear some of your music or what you're working on, because I know there's always new stuff. There's live events you do. There's a men's conference you're a part of. Where can they find out all that stuff?
Yep. They can go to matthammitt.com. Everything's there. I just put out my book, Lead Me, Finding Courage to Fight for Your Marriage, Children, and Faith with Multnomah. And so that's out now. You can find that at my website as well, or wherever you buy books online. And then if people are interested in Bowen's story, it is in the book, but it's also kind of chronicled at bowensheart.com, everything he's been a part of. And, my music is at Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music. And a cool thing is that we actually did an EP for Bowen as well. And so Bowen actually has music just under Bowen's
That's right.
Bowen Hammitt
Yes.
as well on Spotify. So give his tunes a listen.
I love it. Well, thank you for the time, my friend. It's so good to see you.